In the week 2 assignment, you're going to be looking at potentially vulnerable populations. Population health is best seen not only wide spectrum as what it means as a whole, but to really assess population health and how it's working, it often is best to focus on a specific population and see what resources are available to them and understand population health through the lens of that population. So, you can look through the outcomes, those are always listed there. Under the assignment description, you'll notice that you're going to be picking one specific vulnerable population and learning how to do things throughout the semester, like advocating for them, what resources are available for them, what contributing factors they have in regards of health. In these populations, there are a lot to choose from. You'll notice they're kind of clumped up by category, so different parents with a greater risk are all kind of clumped together. Substance misuse, abuse, and addiction clumped together. What you're going to do is you're going to choose one individual bullet point. You're not choosing a whole category, you're choosing one individual bullet point. These are done first come, first serve on the discussion page below. So if you're a face-to-face person week 2, still recommend going in there and claiming that sooner than later. You'll notice that as these are kind of clumped up, those are possible groupings you can work with later on in the semester. There's the option to partner up with others to kind of disperse some of the workload and to get a broader view of some of the issues and concerns that are faced within these vulnerable populations. So look through and choose a population. If it is a population that you either are a part of that population, or if you have family members who are part of that population, that's no problem at all. But you do need to make sure that you still are looking beyond only your own experience or the experience of your family or friend to make sure that you're getting a broader scope for what that means and some of the health disparities that are sometimes faced within these populations. So look through the list. If you want to choose one that you are familiar with, fantastic. If you want to choose one that you have no exposure to at all, but you have an interest in, that is absolutely acceptable as well. But please keep in mind that as this will be your focus for the next 14 weeks, it does need to be a population that you can find a way to have access to. Later on, by the end of week 7, you need to have had 5 contact hours, either with someone from this population or people who work with this population. I understand, for example, that like with incarcerated adults or incarcerated minors, it may not be as easy to spend large quantities of time with the incarcerated minors. That being said, you can also speak to those who work in juvenile corrections, that kind of thing, or those who have formerly been incarcerated minors about their experiences. There are far more options here than there are students per class, so even on a first come, first served basis, there should be no one who is left with no option. You should have plenty to choose from. Please choose sooner than later. You will need to pick one potentially vulnerable population from the list above. Again, only one student per population, per bullet point, and you need to include an explanation of 1 to 2 paragraphs of why you've selected that population. If you're a hybrid student and you're having part of this discussion in class, just go in and claim the name, claim the population title, and that way that's claimed, but you can share some of this more in a face-to-face forum. If your reason for selecting this population is incredibly painful or of a sensitive nature, then please email your explanation directly to your instructor instead of necessarily having to put your personal story out in a wide format. If you are comfortable with sharing your personal story, even if it is of a more personal or painful nature, you're absolutely allowed to do that, and that does give a broader and deeper context for what we're looking at for some of the population or for some of the students who may not be familiar with the population or who may not have met individuals within these populations. You're going to also be going in addition to that 1 or 2 paragraphs, you're going to go into the week 5 assignment, and here's a link right here. There'll be a separate video for this assignment, and start looking at part of the prompts that line up with this portion. So make sure that as you find information, as you contribute to this assignment, that information you'll be finding as you move forward does need to be current, and it does need to be from reputable sources. So go ahead and look at what groups are in there, what populations are in there. If there are classmates of yours that you know you work really well with, you might want to partner with later on in the semester when that's appropriate, then you may want to see if you can get populations within a same category, such as sexual assault and domestic abuse. Again, if you have a population that you think would work and you don't see it on the list, but you would like to inquire about that, please let your instructors know, and we can let you know if it meets the criteria or not.